So, guys, first review of the World Cup, and it's almost like this curse is following us completely. Another game rained out in a World Cup. We Quentin de Kock was looking good. I mean, he couldn't have done more to speed up the game from his perspective. And South Africa ended the game. The game was called off. Hobart. It was raining, obviously, the entire day. There was stop starts. It started with a 9 over match, then it went down to 7 overs, and then the match was called off. There was a maximum of five that you're supposed to have a game. And the umpires obviously thought that there was nothing we can do about it. And obviously, the rain was the rain, and there's nothing you can do about it. And there's nothing we can do about it either. This puts us in a very difficult position, which we're going to talk about a little bit later on the show. But obviously, the points are shared, one apiece, and South Africa is going to have a massive uphill battle the rest of this particular group, I feel. This would have given us amazing confidence going into the rest of the games. And there's also talk about other things too. But let's first get started with this particular video. You need to subscribe to the channel. Please click that notification bell for all future videos as well. Don't forget to download the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics magazine monthly. Every issue is 100% free, straight to your inbox every month. Link is on the screen as well as in the description. You can also help us grow and promote South African cricket by becoming a patron today. Link is on the screen as well as in the description. And go to cricketfanaticsmag.com for all our regular updates. We have a match report up to explain what happened in this match. I tried to explain as best as possible in this particular report, so you can go read it over there and see what I had to say. So let's get straight into today's video. Looking forward to discussing with you guys. It is a call-in show, so you guys can call in and have your say too. Let's get into it. A very good afternoon. I must be careful not saying evening. I'm used to saying evening. A very good afternoon and welcome to Cricket Fanatics magazine. This is your review show of the T20 World Cup. I'm your host, Khalid, and this is the show where we talk about everything that has to do with the opening match between South Africa and Zimbabwe. As you know, the points have been shared, but I have to talk about little things that happened throughout the match that I think could have possibly worked in our favor otherwise. I mean, certain field changes took a little bit long. There was small little errors that we made, wide deliveries that weren't necessary. The whole glove debacle with the ball hitting the glove and the extra ball and the extra runs being given as well. So there were a couple of things that happened throughout the match where we could have possibly stole some time on our side, but obviously that's being very critical. When I look at this particular match, and if I'm going to critique anything, I would possibly only probably critique one aspect, and that was probably sending out Timba with Quinny. I thought that maybe going with someone like Riley to go in there and score the runs would have been a much better option for South Africa in this particular case. But it didn't matter because Quinny faced majority of the balls. I think Pavuma only faced two balls, I think, in the entire innings, and Quinny faced the rest and ended with 47 not out. He was looking like he was going to finish it off quite early, and in the end, the points were shared. But my concern is that game against Bangladesh, there might be rain there too. 70% chance of rain, I think, from the reports that I've seen recently. If another game gets rained out from South Africa, by South Africa, or for South Africa, it's going to cause serious issues. Because then I don't think our World Cup is in a very strong position for us to try and win it, unfortunately. We will have to win every single game and hope that some other teams also win some matches. So it's causing a lot of confusion at the moment, but that's why we're here to try and explain it to you. So we got a couple of callers on the show. There's a debut, someone that you might see a lot more on the show. Let me start with him first. Welcome to the show, HD. Good to see you and good to see you in person. How you doing, bro? Just tell the people about yourself before we get going.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. Can you hear me all right?
You perfectly.
Oh, perfect, perfect. Well, firstly, thanks for having me on the show. So I live in Sydney, lifelong cricket fan, and coincidentally, I've followed South African cricket since I was a young boy. I think it was the first one-day international I ever went to, which was probably around 2001. It was the VB series, and John T. Rhodes had already retired from Test cricket, and South Africa got pumped in the Test series, and John T. Rhodes showed up in the first one-day international and ran out Ricky Ponting, and then Herschel Gibbs took an amazing catch, and I was like, "Yo, these guys are." Oh, they are unbelievable cricketers. I like what they're about. So that was where the love affair with South African cricket started for me, and I've just followed it very closely. And yeah, look, in regards to tonight's game, I'm afraid you're right, man. The curse continues. I feel it I don't know if anyone's super aware, but right now Australia, it's raining. It's raining almost every day here. I can't believe. I've speak to my mates about it. Cannot believe that a single game hasn't been affected by rain up until this one, and it's just South Africa's luck that the first one to not get a result is SA.
Yeah. Yeah, can you please give me some insight into the weather conditions there at the moment?
Yeah,
Because,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, before this tournament, I thought that Australia was the perfect venue to have a World Cup. Is this a normal thing occurrence that the rain is happening so
No,
often?
no.
Not at
What's
all.
happening what's happening is a weather event. It's going on for its third year now. They call it La Nina, and
Okay.
so we haven't had the last 2 years. Our summers have been written off. It's raining every day. So that postcard that you see of beautiful sunny beaches in Australia hasn't been happening, and we're on for a third La Nina season. So
Crazy.
it's very sad. It makes me want to move, because why am I paying this for this lifestyle when I could easily move somewhere else and get a bit more sunshine, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, I think it doesn't really matter with South Africa. As you said, it's a curse, and we both said it because it doesn't matter where we go, even in the most sunny conditions, we will get rain somehow. So it's something maybe I don't know. It's just maybe they call it the law of attraction. Maybe we should stop saying it. Maybe we should stop saying it's a curse.
Perhaps, perhaps. Look, I think on the bright side, right, is I think a lot of the games going forward on the eastern coast of Australia, so that's Melbourne, Brisbane, and Sydney, you're going to see a lot more rain. So I actually think that in the coming week, 2 weeks, you're going to see a lot more rain out fixtures, right? But on your point on South Africa's next game, weather looks bad. It looks like it's 80% rain, but every day thereafter, it's going to be clear. So it's not looking good, though. Is my opinion.
Yeah, flip that is crazy. I mean, I wish there was like a reserve day or something for these type of occurrences, in World Cups. But I mean, it's probably very difficult to organize that and put it into a schedule because of all the different venues you're playing at, etc. So, yeah, it would make it difficult. But let's talk about what we can talk about, and that's this particularly. I want to ask you a little bit more about conditions so we can prepare maybe for the next games that we're going to be facing. Obviously, the next
Yep.
game is Sydney. What can we expect from the conditions in Sydney? Because I mean, I've been watching this particular series, and obviously because not this tournament, sorry, and obviously because of the weather conditions, it looks like it is affecting obviously the way our our teams are playing or the teams are playing. Spin is coming into account a lot more, I feel, and I think that's also because of the bigger boundaries more than getting spin in the turf. But swing is also playing its massive part. So, can you maybe give me some insights into the next game with regards to Sydney and how South Africa can maybe um, to work or take the conditions into their favor ultimately?
Yeah, absolutely. So Sydney's always been traditionally the spinners wicket in Australia. I think Shamsi and Maharaj should both play in the next game. But if it's wet and it's going to be overcast conditions, I think Marco Jansen has to stuff having the two spinners, go Marco Jansen, because he can move it through the air. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a bit more of a pace focused attack. I know he didn't play today, But I think easily, could slot him in for, I'm not sure Ngidi really swings it that much, but Marco can get it to move that left arm option. So the conditions I expect, look, Sydney's a pretty big ground. It's not as big as the MCG, but a lot of catches get taken on the boundary. So definitely, the options for South Africa will be either go with the 4-pace prong attack with one spinner or drop one pacer for two spinners. But I think, given the wet conditions and, the moisture in the air, definitely go 4 paces, I reckon.
Yeah. Do you think we went with the right team lineup for this for Hobart today? Do you think that the team the team connection, like when I looked at the team initially, I was thinking that I never thought that they'd play all three seamers. I thought that the choice would be between one of the all rounders. So either playing two spinners or two all rounders, and maybe only playing two of the main seamers. So either Lungi or KG, or Lungi and Andrich, or KG and Andrich. I never expected them to actually go with the full seam attack. What is your analysis of the team that was picked for today's match?
I think the team today was okay. The only one that I'm a little bit iffy on is Parnell, but he's been doing a good job lately. So I think keep Parnell in there if he's going to be, continuing to do a job. But I think against the big boys, against, New Zealand, South Africa, I think Marco Janssen's a better option. But the team today, I don't hate it. I think it's pretty safe option. Temba Bavuma at the top of the order. I mean, look, I don't think you and me have spoken about this, but
Not yet.
I mean, how long can it continue for, bro? Like, how long can it continue for? Today, if I had the option, I would have opened with Miller and De Kock. Personally, would have said, listen, it's the World Cup. Net run rate is key. Don't know when the rain's coming around. Let's just go balls to the walls. Obviously, they still didn't have time to get it done, but I like the composition of the team overall. But I think maybe Janssen in for Parnell, because I rate Janssen's batting. I don't think it's too far below Parnell's ability from what the little that I've seen. I think the world has seen. And the only other change, I think, at the top, maybe Reza Hendricks deserves, a spot in the team ahead of Bavuma. If I had it my way, I'd have Brevis in there. Hey,
Yeah, no, a lot of South Africans would. I've been watching him very closely in the CSA T20 challenge, so it's very, very good that he's getting runs there. But I can still see slight things that he could possibly improve. Maybe if he plays some first class cricket, I can see him wanting to come out and attack almost every single ball. I think that these Australian wickets are quite big fields and big grounds, especially in these conditions. I think the running between the wicket game is going to be very important. So the opening partner for Quinny and Temba, I can see it working out how they want to see it work out. But I thought that Riza deserves a spot. I'm going to be continuing with my narrative on that. Is that I want them to be rewarding good performances and form, because you can't bank that this player is going to be in this type of form forever. Like, there is going to be time where they dip and they might never see that form again. So I kind of feel it's a little bit unfair with regards to that, because Risa's literally in the form of his life currently. And I think that him and Quinny will be able to make a good partnership at the top of the order, especially if Quinny's in the form that he is right now. But I don't think today's selection, in Temba Bavuma's case, had anything to do with a loss here. Like, there's some narratives going on social media that Temba's the reason we lost, and I was like, I don't understand where this is coming from now. Sometimes people just go for you for the sake of it.
he faced two balls and he reverse swept both. No. I don't think any contention there. I think Temba will play out this World Cup. But I think going forward for South Africa, need to have someone that scares other teams at the top of the order, and I know here in Australia, we've got some big hitters that aren't even in the Australian team, there's a guy called Ben McDermott who is unbelievable, and he's not even in our squad. Cam Green only made the squad because Josh Inglis got injured, and it's like, these guys are scary and they're still not in the squad. Temba Bavuma doesn't bring that same sort of fear into an Australian side. I can definitely say I'm pretty sure Mitch Stark and the boys will be licking their lips, but I think he will play out this World Cup. He's not the issue. I really like Tristan Stubbs, the little that we've seen of him, and also I watched him in the 100. he bowls a bit as well. That could come into, that could come into play this tournament. I'm really, really hoping that he gets a bit of action on the ball. And he's, long levers, as we say here, mate. He's got long levers. He'll send
Yeah.
it. So
He's an
overall, really like the squad, mate.
Yeah, he's an excellent cricketer. I mean, he keeps as well. So he bowls and he bats. So it's incredible.
Wow, yeah, he seems like a good kid as well, huh?
Yeah,
He
yeah.
seems like
I've
he's
seen
got
him
his head switched on. I think it's his first time in Australia. I saw in one of the little promo videos for the World Cup.
Yeah,
He's never been here before, so I've got high hopes on him. I hope he has a ripping tournament, man.
yeah. Me too. Yeah, yeah. So I'm looking at it right now. I mean, there's nothing really much else we can talk about when it comes to this game, other than the fact that the points were shared, of course, and what's going to be happening to South Africa from now on out. That's going to be the problem. I mean, we're going to need to win the rest of our games. And for that is just how it is. Now I'm not going to go with this whole. I don't want loopholes necessarily or things to save us, basic safety nets. I believe that obviously if you want to be a top performer and you want to win World Cups like Australia, your mindset needs to be I want to win every game and no matter what happens. So their mindset should already be like that. I hope they don't allow this to affect their mindset because it's very important that they continuously perform and have the right mentality throughout the game. So they need to keep a high, I don't know, a high level mental game. They need to make sure that they switched on and don't get distracted by that has just happened, and just play what they can and do what they can do. So going into the next game against Bangladesh, I'm hoping that 80% will maybe drop to about 40, so that at least we can get some overs.
If it brings you any hope or warmth over the weekend that we've just had, Saturday and Sunday, it was 90% rain for both days, and it didn't rain. It was overcast, but it didn't rain a drop. So fingers crossed, we have another day like that. Same like the Australia-New Zealand game, where New Zealand absolutely smashed Australia. It was forecast for rain that whole evening, and it didn't rain. So fingers crossed, we get another day like that. But yeah, look, I think the equation is this simple for South Africa now. If you think you can win this World Cup, you win all your remaining games that are completed matches, right?
Yeah.
If we think if they're thinking like we're big boys, we play like big boys. That's the equation is simple.
Well, what is your thoughts on Australia's loss? I didn't get to even ask you that.
Oh man, look, I don't know what's going on with Australian cricket at the moment. Like it's a wonderful squad. I think the selection, I think maybe Cummins isn't a T20 bowler, so I'd maybe get him out of there. But we got absolutely hammered by by New Zealand. Finn Allen, amazing player, and Devon Conway. He's ex-South African. It's South Africans that don't make the South African team go and have a great career either in New Zealand or England, right? It's blows my mind how good he is. And he could surely fit into this South African team somewhere,
Yeah.
Look, New Zealand outplayed us. Fair play, but will Australia bounce back? Yeah, tomorrow's Sri Lanka, and I think Australia will come back strong.
You think you got it? Okay, cool. Okay, so from South Africa's perspective, like you spoke about Conway and our players leaving. Unfortunately, in South African cricket, there's a hell of a lot of talent in South African cricket. Like I seriously, if I walk around this at school level and I look around in Western at the different provinces, there's a lot of talented players, and not enough spots for all of them. And especially with transformation, it makes it a little bit harder for some to also to get regular game time in certain times. Sometimes players don't get selected in teams, and it's only a team of 11, of course. So automatically from a young age, if you're not showing the signs and you're not being backed, automatically your next option, if you have the opportunity to have that option to go play overseas, because not everybody can go play overseas. Not everybody has access to an ancestral visa as well. So it makes it very difficult. But if you're not showing it at a young age, 19, 20, 21, 22 already in our domestic setup, the chances of you playing for South Africa are going to diminish. I mean, you get obviously special cases when we're in a transitional phase like now. We'll see Asar get his debut at 29, 30, or Rassi get his debut at the age of 33, or Peter Malan, etc. Because we are in a transitional phase currently. But when everything is working perfectly. It's the ones that stand out. Like you'll see your Deva Brevises of the world stand out from the rest, and those are the ones that actually go through and make it. So it makes it very difficult for us to hold on to talent in South Africa currently.
Just on that, it's very fascinating because I don't think it's widely known in at least here in Australia that that South Africa is almost playing, handicapped isn't the right word. They are playing a slightly different makeup to the way they want their sporting team to look on a field. And for us here, it's very simple. You either put the runs or you take the wickets, so you don't get in the team. Sometimes even if you do that, you don't get in the team because there's another guy that's doing a better job. I luckily, from following South African cricket, it's very fascinating to me because as I understand the quota system or the transformation policies, it has to average over a season, right? Like as in how many players of color, etc. over a season. Now, my thinking is, yeah, sure. Wouldn't you blood as many however many different colored players, whatever it may be, over a season? But then for the World Cup, you go your absolute out and out best.
Yeah.
Like, hey, everyone's had a shot throughout the year. It's maybe simplified thinking, but I tell my mates, I'm like, hey, when you see someone like Quinton de Kock or when you see someone like Markram, like they've fought for like 5 spots out of 11, maybe, they have stuck it out and really gone for it. And there's a lot, I really admire that. Not speaking ill of anyone that turns their back on it and goes to ply their trade elsewhere overseas and earn money. But I think when you do make it to that top echelon, like that's really special, that's really special. And I look at South African cricket through that lens, man. And yeah, man, I'm hoping that in the future it will just be merit based. Whoever's the best, get in there. I mean, Rabada's unbelievable, right? Like, hey, Reza Hendricks, it's unbelievable. And these guys aren't like buying a spot in the team. So yeah, I think in the future, and just so even like I play a bit of cricket here. Whenever we come up against a South African bloke on a field, they're usually the best on the field. There's something so in the blood of South African cricketers that they are unbelievable. They can hit the ball further than anyone. They never drop a catch. It's a thing even on this side of the world. So I'm very excited to see whenever the best of South Africa play, and whenever they do play bad, not that they played bad tonight, it's kind of like what happened there, So those are my views, man.
That's
I
excellent.
think
I never knew
just
that
a
before.
quick point as well, man. There's a bloke I've been following, Yanaman Milan. Needs to be in the test team. He needs to be in this T20 squad. Like, he's unbelievable. I don't understand why he doesn't quite get a look in yet. Do you have any insight on why that may be?
I've got some insight on that. Yes. So Yanaman, I've always said very talented player. But we've seen in recent times, particularly in white ball cricket, his strongest format is probably the ODI format, I think, currently, in my opinion. Especially if he's opening the batting, because he does struggle to rotate the strike and get the ball into gaps and run between the wickets, especially in difficult conditions. He's had problems with spin over the years. He's worked on. I always say it. He's found a way to survive against spin, and not necessarily play against spin, but survive. And that's helped him, especially in India and other countries where he's gone to play against the spinners, etc. So his game is developing still. He's still trying to find other scoring options than just pummeling and murdering the ball over a cow, or wherever the case may be, or pulling it. Because generally speaking, he's the type of player that likes to play those massive, strong shots. He backs his strength. He plays a hell of a lot of dot balls. And that's the problem currently, I feel, within white ball cricket. Yes, some people will say the same thing for Temba Bavuma, but I feel Temba doesn't do that when he's in form. He normally is very good running between the wickets and getting the balls taken over. Currently, he can't find a run, and he's really struggling with technique, and it's been very disrupted. With regards to test cricket with Yanaman, I mean, if Yanaman gets that right, I feel Yanaman's closer to Quinny at the moment, where he can bat through entire innings, maybe in a T20, go till 13, 14 overs, and then kick on. Same in ODIs, I feel. He goes deeper and then kicks on later. If you look at his start of all his innings, he's quite slow in his starts. He'll be on like 15 or 30, 40 balls, and then he'll kick on later into his 50s. Once he gets his 50, it's overs. Then you know he's going to get 100 or more, most likely. He's a very good converter when it comes to getting past 50. With regards to tests, he's changed his position. So he's not an opener anymore in Test cricket. He's moved down the order to number 4 for Boland or for Paul Rocks,
Oh
because
wow, right.
I think he feels that that will probably be his better position in Test cricket that he wants to focus on. So if that's the case, then obviously the opening spot is not where he's looking at, where there's a vacancy over there currently. So I think he's on the edge of being a regular in the South African team. And I think the definitely in the ODIs it's his, in my opinion, at least he should be playing with Quinny in every single game with regards to that. But when I'm looking at his game, there's still a couple of things that I feel he needs to develop. But yeah, that's just my opinion on it, and it's from what I've heard.
He looks a dangerous player every time I've seen him. He looks, he hits the ball hard. He's a great fielder. Seems like a decent guy as well. His older brother also played for South Africa, Peter Milan, I think, as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I get the feeling that, like, if more South Africans came and played here in the BBL, the Big Bash, he would be one if I could sign for the Sydney Sixers, which is the team I support. Oh my goodness, he would light it up. I just get the
Yeah.
feeling that this is a guy that South Africa should be looking, especially at a time where batting's not that strong in, especially the Test format. Get it, like, start to bring in the next generation and just
Yeah.
nurture them and say, like, guys, you're who we're going to look at for the next 2 years.
So for me, Yaneman would bat brilliantly with another attacking opener. So like if there's another guy that is a little like what we're talking about with Quinny currently, we said the same thing. We said
Yeah.
Timba shouldn't be playing. Maybe someone more attacking with a better strike rate, because there's going to be a lot of balls that Yaneman is going to eat up. It's just naturally he doesn't tend to run between the wickets a hell of a lot. Like I always say, like I've seen a trend in T20 cricket in South Africa actually. It's forced singles rather than controlled singles. I don't know if people understand what I mean by that. It's they try to play an attacking shot and they miss
To
time
get a
it and it
single.
goes, and then they get a single rather than
Yeah.
actually pushing it into the gap and actually aiming to get for a single. And I want players that have that intent of trying to get a single. So we got another caller that's going to call in quickly. I'm just going to give him some time to have a say. Angry Gamer 009 is his handle. Welcome to the show, bro. What would you like to say? Can't hear you right now. There's no sound, bro.
Might be on mute.
No, there's no sound. Can you just try to reconnect again? Try to call in. Maybe use earphones. These things happen sometimes. Not everybody's connection is going to work, unfortunately.
That's
But
all
yeah,
right.
yeah. So where, where was I?
No,
So
we were
but
just
yeah,
talking. We were talking about Milan. Like
yeah,
I think there's a lot of, like, that Test series against England recently was just heartbreaking to watch. Like, South
uh,
Africa threw that away, in my opinion. With the toss
that
in the
second
second
game.
Test,
Mm,
and then third Test, they didn't even show up. It was very sad.
yeah, it's sad.
Dropping Janssen as well was like, who is making these decisions? Me as a fan, like, wouldn't do that. You as a fan probably
Nope.
wouldn't have made some of those calls.
No. You see, like I think some fans out there, like especially on social media, etc., I get quite a few guys going for me especially when it comes to the Temba Bavuma narrative. So when I speak about Temba and I defend him or I support him, whatever, it's not because of his cricketing skills. It's because of the abuse that he gets online. It is inhumane and dehumanizing, literally. I don't even know if you've seen the stuff that happens on our Facebook page, the comments that people say, these crazy, crazy things that have been said. If that was said to his face, they would be arrested. Like that bad. Like it's
Yeah.
literally really, really bad the amount of criticism he gets. So I support him because I don't agree with that type of criticism. I don't care if you call someone a crap cricketer or or he won't be able to play, or he's bad at this and he's bad at that. I don't mind criticism, but when it becomes dehumanizing and when the criticism becomes dehumanizing, is when I step in and I say, "Whoa, I'm going to support him here and back him over here." I don't believe that Temba should play. I believe that Riza should play based on form, because I'm a person that believes that form should be selected. From what from the selectors of the past, they've always gave me this particular narrative, always telling me that in World Cups they pick on merit. Quota doesn't happen in the World Cups. That's what I was always told. I think 2007 was one where it was enforced, and then in 2015 again it was enforced. But with 2019 World Cup, when Otis Gibson came in, they told me that there was no quotas for that particular World Cup. And for the last T20 World Cup, they told me that there's not going to be quotas for that either. So they are picking the players that they want. And I think Bavuma is someone that Mark Boucher wants to play. I mean, he's asking him to play. I think it's because he wants him there, not because of quota system or the transformation targets. They, even without Timber, they still meet the transformation targets if they play Riza Hendricks. There's only two Black Africans in an international side. If you look at it, it's two Black Africans and the
Right.
rest players of color. 5 players of color out of the 6. So
I think just on that, I think the complication is he's the captain, right? Like
that's the complication. Yes.
Not to draw it's not the same exact story, but Aaron Finch for Australia just cannot score a run right now, and the problem is he's the captain and he opens the batting. Do you know what I mean?
I made this comparison the other day, and I was talking apart in the comment section. How can you compare Temba to? I'm not comparing Temba to Aaron Finch. I'm comparing the situation.
The situation is you have two guys horribly out of form that are the captains of their respective countries, and so it's okay to drop. It's let's use an example here. If Riley Rousseau fails in 3 games this World Cup, he's out. And they'll bring in Riza Hendricks at 3. That's my assumption. Temba can fail all 3 games. He's going to get to play again because he's the leader of these boys. And if the boys respect him, then yeah, have him on the plane, have him on the field. I think he's a great captain. I think he's a good test player. I think he's quite solid. But how about how he didn't get picked for the 2020 in the CS, the Cricket South Africa 2020 tournament coming up? Like
absolutely shocking.
Like that's that probably doesn't help with the abuse he gets online as well, right? Firstly, absolutely not. I don't think he deserves that kind of grief online. He's given a lot to South Africa and South African cricket, and he doesn't deserve it. But the truth is, probably shouldn't be in the top 3 of the T20 team. One day is, maybe not. Maybe Test he should be.
This, yeah, and I agree, and I've just said, like, because the abuse came before he even got a chance to even prove himself, and that was my concern, because he wasn't getting regular game time, so we weren't even able to watch him bat and then assess. We were assessing before he even batted, because he got a lot of injuries and he got a lot of interruption games, and there's some games he didn't play, and then he was sick, so he's never had a continuous run of games, so we can actually say, you know what, like Quinny, for example. Quinny went on had a run, and they played him right through that. And I said there was a point where I was like, now I think you have to drop Quinny, but because you've taken it so long, you might as well just give him another chance until he comes right. And players like Quinny come right. That's why they always given extra chances, because you believe that they are that good that they will come right. With Temba, we've never seen it before. Yeah, with Temba, we've never seen it before, so we don't know what he can offer. So we as journalists are trying to give some insight from what we've seen domestically, but you can't compare the two. You can't compare domestic cricket to T20 international cricket. It's completely 2 different levels with regards to the level of cricket. I'm talking about South African domestic cricket right now, because there is a debate between the IPL and international. I still think international is stronger, but there is a debate. But generally speaking, that's what happens.
I think a really good example of what you're talking about in terms of not being able to compare it is you look at the play-in tournament that Zimbabwe, Ireland, UAE just played. Now they've come through to the main sort of tournament. Let's call it the Big Boys League, and you can see immediately Afghanistan couldn't face Wood. Tonight Zimbabwe were nowhere against South Africa. As soon as you take that leap where there's real pace, there's movement. These guys, tend to fold, right? So I completely get you can't compare the two.
Yeah.
So look, on the positives, right? But if we can talk about the positives for South Africa tonight, I think the fielding was pretty good. Just the one drop catch from Lungi where he went like this and then he tried to change it to the cup. He went from the web to the cup as the ball was literally just here. You can't do that.
And it's wet. The ball's wet too.
Yeah, the ball is wet. Yeah. But other than that, South African fielding looks solid. David Miller, awesome direct hit. Whoa, that looks good. And Lungi Ngidi got smacked for 6 first ball by Chakabva, and then straight away just pulled the length back and immediately bang got Raza, who's their class, he's Zimbabwe's best. So, Lungi, I liked what I saw. Rabada was a little bit, how you going? It didn't look that good in that second over, but I mean, the ball was probably pretty wet at that point as well. Positives, South African take wickets, fielding looks okay. But batting for me, Quinton de Kock was unbelievable.
Like, I mean, that innings, I tweeted it and I said, he's literally playing stick cricket. That's literally what he's doing.
Yeah. and up until the very end, they were all onside shots, right? Like, that's where he loves it. He loves pulling the ball. But then just towards the end, he added a few of the offside cuts, which, is classic Quinny. I think if South Africa can have a good tournament here, he's gonna need to top score for the whole tournament, and he can do it. I mean, this is probably going to be one of his last World Cups. I get the feeling. He's a family man now. I get the feeling he's not going to hang around too long. Like, I get that feeling with Quinny. He's special. He left Test cricket now. He may just do one World Cup, maybe another one, and then he'll bow out.
Hopefully, I mean, I don't know if he'll be. It's too far away, the South African World Cup that's going to be here, so it's too far away for him to aim for that one. So,
when is South Africa hosting the next World Cup?
2027, I think it is when we have the next.
Okay. Yeah, he might be well into his mid to late 30s at that point. No.
Yeah, well, we don't know anymore. With this 40-year-old still playing cricket, so we never know. I saw 40-year-olds run onto the rugby field, and that's when I knew that things have changed. So, oh no, wait, 2027. This is the rugby, only the Cricket World Cup. He's in Australia, right? The Rugby World Cup in 2027. I think 2027 Cricket World Cup is in South Africa. So cool.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll hang around that long. So got to enjoy it while it lasts. But the next generation will be there. Brevis, fingers crossed. Stubbs, and
Daniel Smith. Daniel Smith is a player that I'm looking at in the future. I think he's going to be.
What's his name? Daniel Smith?
Daniel Smith, opening batter, wicketkeeper. He was the S under-19 captain. He was Deva Brevis' captain. He missed out on the World Cup because of age. The under-19 World Cup.
Right.
He just missed out by like a couple of months or something. So it's incredible.
Because I think there's a fast bowler that's really highly rated, Kutzer, or Gerald Kutzer.
Gerald Kutzer.
Yeah. He's yet to really make a mark on the international scene. I hear great things about him though.
Yeah, he's a very good bowler. Control. For all our speedsters, I think the main thing for them to learn is control. Even with Nokia, it's the same thing. We come in and we just bang it in, hoping that the pace is going to do it for us. And normally in domestic cricket, it does, because players are not facing 150 on a regular basis. So if you just put it in any decent area, that's going to go beat the bat, most likely. But when you get to that stage where you're going to be playing batters like Kohli and those guys that don't care about the pace, that's when we get a little bit inconsistent, I feel, when you get when we bowl, our fast bowlers particularly. I think they need to learn a little bit more control and maybe variations in their bowling from a young age already. The slower delivery, because a slower delivery for a 150 bowler is 140. I mean, it's not like it's not going to do much. So, I mean, like, so for me, they need to learn a little bit more variations, particularly in the T20 game if they want to be good in T20 and work on their accuracy. You can see a guy like Corbin Bosch, who's also another very talented player, an all-rounder.
Yeah.
He struggles with
Yeah.
his control, where you'll put an amazing delivery in, and the next ball you'll go for six, or in the next ball you go for four, or the next ball will be wide. And that's the consistency that I want to see from our fast bowlers a lot more. We need to get that consistency going and accuracy. And that's why I say our players must play first class cricket, because that's where you learn
Well,
that.
let me ask you a question on this. There's this idea of a metronomical bowler, right? You're kind of referring to that consistency. The metronome is, a Glenn McGrath. With Australia, very lucky to have one now in Josh Hazlewood, a bowler that just consistently puts it in this grouping, in this on this length that the batsman is unsure of whether to come forward and back, and as a result, it's very economical, and they tend to nick bats off or get LBWs or bowls. Right now, the only bowler that I've thought is anywhere near close to Glenn McGrath was Sean Pollock. He was also a metronome. Is
And
there
Burn.
anyone on the scene? Is there anyone on the scene in South Africa that is kind of replicating that discipline?
I'm thinking about. I have to really, really think about it to actually get there.
Because Vernon Philander was kind of like
Vernon
that.
Philander was that. Yeah, Vernon Philander was that.
Yeah.
I would say Lungi. I think Lungi is that he can put it on. He might not get the same lengths because of his height and the bounce that he gets, but he keeps it pretty accurate when it comes to putting it on
Yeah.
the delivery at the same time. My concern about fast bowlers is if you don't have something special like a reverse swinging delivery or something like that, or you don't have like an in swing or an out swinger that is lethal, and all you have is just pace, it makes it very difficult for you to take wickets consistently just on pace alone. So I'm just hoping that they add a little bit extra skills to their arsenal so that they don't get smacked to the boundary so easily. Because if you're bowling at first on off stump, then on leg, then you're bowling middle, then you're bowling the Yorker, then you're going to confuse yourself and you're not going to get into a rhythm as a quick bowler. And that's my concern. Because Dale Steyn was excellent at that too. He puts it in a dangerous position uh, majority of the time,
Dale
every
Steyn.
single delivery. He beat you once, he beat you twice, he beat you three times, you're out.
And
Like it's
Dale Steyn he was amazing, man. He
yeah,
was an amazing one. Dale Steyn, Philander, Morne Morkel. That was a wonderful pace battery that
yeah.
South Africa used to have. And this next generation has the potential, man. I think Rabada's maybe the best fast bowler in the world, at least in the top three. I think Marco Jansen has the potential to be number one in the coming 3-4 years. But yeah, it fascinates me a little bit because you still have Kyle Abbott sitting around on the sidelines, right? Like he's now committed back to South Africa, if I'm not mistaken.
Forced in a way because Kolpaks are now done, so majority of them have
Yeah.
come back. But you'll see, like for
Mm.
example, like a Lewis Deploy. I saw that he's registered to play for England. He's not for South Africa. So that's an interesting one. He could possibly play for England one day. I think that he stayed long enough in England for him to be to have clearance to play for England. David Bedingham fell short of that because when he decided to do it, that was the aim to try and register and play for England. But now with the whole change in Brexit and everything and all those laws, it's changed things around a bit. So a lot of our players can't really escape anymore like they used to. Um, Maybe they can go to other European countries. Like for example, I heard Stubbs had um, a Dutch passport. He could have played for Holland, for example. So there's different things going around with regards to that. But I think we're in a good space. We need to find a way out to rebuild South Africa once again. I
I
hope
think
that
I
they
think
bring.
the most sorry, you were
No, no,
saying.
I hope they bring in a coach that has that focus of understanding how the transition with these youngsters into national teams.
Who do you think is going to replace Mark?
Uh, at the moment, there are some names floating around at the moment. For the test, I've heard that Malibonga Maketa is in a running for it. The Jeffrey Toyana would be someone that I would look at as well. But
Yeah,
I would like to go with an overseas coach for change. I would like an Australian to come in, to be honest. But I don't think we have the money for that. But they're going to split the two coaching roles. That we know for a fact.
yeah.
So the
I
white
think
ball
it's a better. I
coaches.
think it's a better. I think it's a better way to go forward, right? You
Mm,
have different disciplines here. Maybe a white ball coach and then red ball
yeah,
coach.
yeah,
Whoever the red ball coach has to be a batsman. It needs to be built on batting. I saw South Africa's batting coach. I forget. I don't know his name off the top of my head, but it's about to
Justin
you know
Salmons.
yeah, he's come in and he's trying to explain why South Africa cannot play England's bowlers, and I'm kind of sitting there being like, mate, this is your job. Like you're working with quality bats. I just get the feeling that like yeah, whoever comes in next, it needs to be we need to spend time at the crease. We need to
Yeah.
learn how to grind an innings out because the bowlers are so good. The bowlers are
Hmm.
so good. All you need to get is 300 to 350 first innings, and you
Yeah, yeah.
probably win, 60, 70% of the tests.
And
And,
that's the
and South
crazy
Africa
thing. It's
coming
not a lot of
through,
runs we need.
yeah,
I mean, we
it's
if we get,
not,
it's crazy.
it's not. You just,
Yeah,
and also just one guy to score 100. And it can't be Elgar every time, right? It
yeah,
cannot be because poor guy, he's carrying so much on him. And I think he's a great captain. But Rassi needs to step up, I feel, in tests. He's good. He's one of the best. He just needs to have the one breakthrough innings. And then I think he'll end up a 40, 45 average player. South Africa just need the right guy to click all this into place.
mm.
And yeah, but coming back to the World Cup though, give me your thoughts. What do you think is going to happen here? Like, obviously, if the Bangladesh game goes ahead, South Africa should win that. But then,
Should.
how do you think the Pakistan game will go? Because I'll be attending that one, man. I'll be at the SCG. Fingers crossed, no rain.
Fingers crossed, no rain. The Pakistan game, I'm a bit worried about because of that opening swing pair that they have. South Africa with the ball, when the ball moves around, and if the conditions are suiting Pakistan for that swing, I'm going to be really, really worried for that opening pair because that's where we struggle with the moving delivery at the moment. But I do believe that this South African squad is probably the most balanced squad we've had in a very long time. I feel that in every position we are strong. And with regards to the balance, we've got players that can also bat deep. We've got players that can adapt their game and smack the ball. Like when he changed his whole game today, he doesn't normally play this quickly, so consistently. He normally takes his time, gets a couple of maybe a boundary or two in the first over or second over that he faces, and then he kicks on. He normally takes his time and he bats deeper. But we have players that are adaptable. We've got for the issues that we had in the previous World Cup, we've solved. We always talk about the number six. We needed this number six that can power hit and smack the ball out the ground. We've got that now. We've got Heinrich Klaassen sitting on the bench in form. We've got Riza sitting on the bench in form. We've got Marco Janssen sitting on the bench as well in form. So we're sitting in a situation where I feel we're very balanced. Against Pakistan, though, I think it's going to be an extremely tough match. But our bowlers, I feel, will be able to cope with what they have to offer. If if Babar Azam and Rizwan are struggling to get the ball out the ground or get runs from the get go and they're facing a lot of dot balls, I think we in it. We in the match. We in the match instantly. Those two are so dangerous, and it will put enough pressure on the rest of the players because I think Lungi will be able to once pressure's on the opposition. Lungi is going to be extremely dangerous because he's going to make it almost
Yeah,
impossible for you to get your eye in with his slower deliveries. He's going to make it like
it's
really difficult. So that's my thought process, but I hope it works out like that.
it's gonna be a fascinating matchup. I think these two teams are very very similarly balanced.
Yeah.
I think obviously, but what Pakistan have in Babar is probably something South Africa don't have. Just like a truly 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 world class batsman. But Quinton's not far off in my opinion. But what Pakistan don't have is someone like David Miller at number 6.
Yeah,
So it probably balances out. But
exactly.
the two pace attacks very very nicely matched. We've got
Oh,
Nortje and Ralph, Shaheen and Rabada. I mean that is gonna be really good viewing. And then obviously who's the other,
yeah.
Naseem Shah and Ngidi. Those will be the three battles. I think that if South Africa can get a good win on the board there, World Cup is on. Semis are on.
Mm.
Provided South Africa gets through Bangladesh. Um, yeah, I get the feeling with Stubbs and Miller, I don't think Pakistan have quite the same firepower in their lower order. I think it's very top heavy, right? It's very Rizwan and Babar to carry the weight. So I think it really comes down to the toss on that one. Now I'll ask you a question. The last World Cup, it was a bat second World Cup, right? Chase. Uh, what do you think this World Cup is? I'll be very interested to hear.
I think it's a setting total type of. If you set a massive
Mm,
total, you most likely will win, especially South Africa with our bowling attack. I think that should be the
yep.
focus. I mean, I was quite surprised today at first when Bavuma said, no, you would have bowled first. But then I thought about it. I knew it's a reduced match. It makes more sense. If it's a reduced match, it makes more sense for me to go and chase, I feel. Because I feel that when a team goes into a match when it's reduced, they're kind of not 100% sure what the total should be. So they're just going out there and feeling it. So they don't know if they can. I think that slight bit of doubt of knowing whether you can go or whether you must play a more conservative role. That's the mindset that you're going to be fighting in a reduced game. But in a full match, if it's a full T20, I think on these grounds it's going to be tough to chase on these grounds,
Definitely.
especially as
Bat
as it goes
first.
later. The dew and stuff and all of that as well makes it hard to bowl, especially with
Exactly
the
right.
weather conditions.
It's a bit of an Australian staple. There's a strong belief, even in grassroots cricket here. You win the toss, you bat, you get a total on the board, and then you
Mm,
put your opposition under pressure.
yeah,
This whole chasing anomaly that happened in the last World Cup, it's a little weird. It's always like, oh, but you're still waiting on a bit of a miracle. You're waiting for one of your boys or two of your boys to
yeah.
come
You
off,
see, the
which doesn't always happen.
what I think the thought process was there is because of the UAE conditions, the sun on the baking on the pitch for that long in a match and throughout the day, etc. As their pitches dry out differently, it almost got almost slower and not as spinner friendly necessarily in every single venue. So I think that was the concept: is that it's going to get easier to bat on as the sun bakes more on the pitches. So I think that was whereas here the later it gets, the more conditions take a play a part. I feel the overhead conditions, the dew, all of those type of things going to play a part later as you go along. But if it
Yeah,
was
and
normal
also
sunny Australian conditions, I don't know. I don't know.
we don't have that here at the moment, man. It's so sad. It's so sad. It rains every day. It rains more here than it does in Manchester at the moment, man. Just to let you
Wow.
know. Yeah, it's
Wow.
bad. It's bad. I haven't been to Bondi Beach in like 2-3 years, man. So it's sad, but no. Look, I think on the bright side for South Africa, look, it's points shared. I don't know if you know the answer to this. The net run rate, does that count? And if in a drawn match, because South Africa's technical run rate today was brilliant. Does it get a score? And we should check that actually.
Should actually check
You
that.
know,
I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. I know that
yeah.
it will affect it later on, though.
There
So,
is no run rate recorded, man. It is zero.
okay, cool.
Very sad. So you need to win for the
That's
net run
sad.
rate.
You need
Interesting.
to win the run. Yeah, so that's unfortunate.
It's
Okay,
pretty.
guys. Okay, guys. I think we're gonna call it. We will see plenty of HD during throughout the World Cup, for reviews, etc. on the rest of the games. Thanks a lot, everybody, for tuning in, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell for all future videos, but also download the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics Magazine monthly. It's the World Cup edition, and one of our favorite cricketers obviously is on the front cover. So it's KG Rabada on the front cover. So please go ahead and download it. It's a free subscription, and you get every single issue 100% free straight to your inbox every month. Link is on the screen right now. But I also want you guys to, if you want to help us grow and promote South African cricket, it's very important that you get involved with our Patreon account. That's how you're going to help us do so. So please get involved with the Patreon account. And also go to cricketfanaticsmag.com for all your regular updates. Thanks a lot for coming on, bro. I really enjoyed chatting to you.
Thanks for having me, man. Absolute pleasure. I'll see you again very soon.
Very, very soon. Definitely. I enjoyed this conversation. Take care, bro.
Take care, Khalid. Bye.
Bye.